and welcome back to Time to Calibrate. This is episode 34. I'm Brent Robillard, editor of The Calibrated Wrist and Caliber321 on Instagram. As always, I'm joined by my colleagues Bob Allaby from the YouTube channel Time to Go Travel and Timepieces, and Mark Levesque, freelance writer and North American brand director for Isotope Watches. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, one who needs little introduction in the world of horology, Mr. Andrew McUtchen. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Andrew comes to watches through the lens of a writer first, a storyteller. His academic background is in creative writing, where his thesis, Café, was a collection of short stories.
Wow.
He's co-authored 2 books of nonfiction.
Leading with the deepest academic cut possible.
That's true. We go way deep. So wait till you see the questions.
Jesus Christ. You're going to bring up my shoplifting record next.
Well, I'm going to strike that one, I guess. Okay. So we found out also that you're the author of 2 nonfiction books, The Music That Made You Made and The Fatherhood. Oof. And of course, you wrote for GQ, The Age, Qantas, and Inspired magazine before, founding one of the most recognized watch media platform in the world, Time+Tide. He's also known to many as a co-Effing Time, along with George Bamford and Adrian Barker, and now A Matter of Time with Eleanor Picciano and Christian Hagen. But at his core, Andrew is a journalist, a creative, and a community builder, someone who has transformed a side hustle in Melbourne into a global watch media and retail force with Discovery Studios in Australia, London, and now New York. He's also hashtag no days off. Did I miss anything, Andrew?
I feel like I'm at my own funeral. All I need now is
a roasting episode. Yes.
Rest in peace, Andrew. Obviously, you tried to do too much, and now you're going to pay the ultimate price. Wow, no, that's quite a flashback, and I think there's a degree of terror that sets in when you agree to do a podcast where there's actually been a modicum of research done. I'm like, now I've got to wake up and I've got to be on my game here because you guys have done a Wikipedia deep dive. It's all true. It's all true. It's all regrettable. Most of it is regrettable, but Time+Tide's certainly not.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, as we're kind of bound by the unwritten laws of all watch podcasts, we'll kick things off with a wrist check. Andrew, as our guest, you have the honors to go first. What's on your wrist today?
He's naked.
I'm naked. I tell you what's upstairs on my couch. I have one of our team is staying at my house currently, and he wanted to have a closer look at my Straum Jan Mayen Time+Tide edition, which hasn't really been seen yet. I can go and get it if you've got time to wait, but if you've got time to calibrate, you've got time to wait. It's upstairs on the arm of the couch. I have it's a sort of I know that their green is called a moss green, but this is more moss than their moss. This is like a really olive toned, it looks sort of dugout dial. It's a beautiful Grand Seiko looking
they make
dial.
Nice stuff.
It's just awesome. And I wanted a white rubber strap on it, so they did that for me too. And I don't know, this is one of the true privileges, and I abuse these privileges all the time of where we are now, is that I said, yeah, I like your collection a lot, but what you're missing is this particular Pantone of green that I think is great. And I sort of pushed them to come up with a tone of green that's more that sort of olive, winter moss type of green. I just love that khaki adjacent green. So that they tried and got the pitch exactly perfect. And I picked it up at Wind Up last week, and that has not left my wrist because the total spec monster in terms of its comfort and quality. And it's just, they're, to me, a bit like Serica. They're right at that pointy end of the quality spectrum of new brands. So I've been wearing that constantly since I was I don't know. It's sort of my life now, but I do pinch myself often when I turn up to say, oh, Stram, how you guys going? And they're like, we have your watch. I'm like, I completely forgot that I pushed you to do that, but it will be available in our studios as a studio exclusive, which is the reason for its creation. But I was wearing it until 3 minutes ago when I ran downstairs, and it's up there on the couch, but I can go get it if you want.
No, it's all good. We are familiar with it, and we'll be nice and surprised when we see it. Strom's a pretty cool company that when they made the change from having a standard bracelet attachment to their cases and went to a integrated bracelet version.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just took off afterwards, right after that change, and it's so nice to see them. We got to see them in Vancouver, and it was really cool.
They also have the on-the-fly adjustment now on their bracelet. They were in Toronto recently at the Toronto Timepiece show, and that's a nice little thing to have too. So yeah, you're right. They are like sort of a spec monster of a brand with their watches for sure.
That particular clasp, actually, I find that it's even better in terms of specs and functionality than the one that Omega put on their Aquaterra line. It's fantastic, and I love the way that their strap changing system works too. Voss is a great guy, and those watches are just beautiful to begin with.
It's just, I mean, the thing that strikes me about SRAM, not to go on too long with the wrist check, this is what always happens on A Matter of Time. We're like 25 minutes in and haven't even got to the fucking subject. It is that, to me, that what a SRAM added that gave them a place in the studio, because you need to add something to get at the moment that the list is so long that you just need, if you're going to barge through the list, you need to have something. And their dial quality, the dial animation is just unbelievable. Like it's, I hope they're keeping their secrets close to their chest, but there've been micros that do nice dials, but I would say that SRAM are leading the micro category with their dials in terms of you've got Anno Dame with those beautiful enamel dials, and I'm trying to think of the others that I think Atelier Wen have had some beautiful hand gear shade dials, but SRAM really take it up to Grand Seiko with those nature inspired and the animated dials.
They're getting up there to comparison with the best out there.
It's fair to compare them. What about you guys? What's on the wrist?
Mark, what about you?
I spent the weekend wearing the Isotope Moonshot chronograph, which is a fairly large, chunky monkey, and it is now off to a reviewer in Toronto, a friend of all of ours, James Stacy. So hopefully he'll have something in Hodiki at sometime soon. So I'm gonna try and wear something smaller. This is our Flyaway guilloche pattern watch. The guilloche pattern is actually the Lacrima logo over and over and over again on itself, which is kind of neat. But this is a 36.5 millimeter watch, and I haven't worn something this small since the late 80s, early 90s, maybe. So it's kind of weird. I have a 7.5 inch wrist, and I mean, it works, but it looks tiny. But I like it. I mean, it's got a lot of cool little details with the Bob, the paraboloid, hyperbolic, something.
Hyperbolic paraboloid, yeah.
There you go, yeah. Crystal. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing.
Nice.
What about you, Bob?
Today I have on the Millgraph from Micro Mil Spec, the tooliest of tool watches, I call it. Theo is actually in town from Micro Mil Spec in Toronto for a few days. I saw him yesterday and thought I'd put it on wrist for the day.
That's fantastic.
On the bracelet, I see.
Yeah, so I and on the site it doesn't offer it on bracelet. I think this was a prototype bracelet for the model. Well, this is a review model that's sort of been making the rounds for months. But yeah, no bracelet available currently on their site. I meant to ask them about that. Actually.
I asked them on the weekend in Toronto and New York, and it's on the way.
It is on the way. Okay.
Very cool.
Good to know.
Well, I have the Breitling Aerospace on wrist now from the sort of early 2000s, I think. The two of you, anyway, Jamie Andrews, and I bought it from him for a very good price, and he's been bugging me for about 2.5 years now to buy it back. But I still kind of like that as a daily wear. So that's what I have on wrist today.
Nice.
So let's start with a few questions here. Andrew, I think that you've described yourself actually first and foremost as somebody who loves stories, personal stories, success stories, failure stories, and maybe even love stories. And you found journalism as a way to live among them. How do you see storytelling as kind of the heartbeat of what you do at Time+Tide?
Oh, well, we don't need watches. So you can't sell it like milk or bread or porn or cars. We don't need these things. They're nice to haves. So the onus is on the brand and the business to create desire. And the best way to create desire is to tell a story. If you want to captivate an audience, I learned very early that you start by saying, I want to tell you a story. And there's just an erogenous zone in the brain. There's a little button in there that gets pressed when someone says, I'm going to tell you a story. You just cannot help but be activated for that. So that's where it all began. I just felt that watches were commodified often by the brands, and I thought the advertising and the ways that brands presented watches was just very very much presented them as items and things. And then I thought the watch media at the time in the mid 2010s was very sort of geeky and detailed, and people arguing about whether a lug width was appropriate for them and whether there was micro adjust or whether there was appropriate water resistance or this. None of it was hitting me in any spot that made me want watches. And yet when I spoke to people and I asked people about their watches, I always got these incredible watches. Are such a personal expression, and they're such sentimental objects that pretty much always have a story. Like, you will learn more about someone by asking why they're wearing what they're wearing than you might learn from an hour of conversation. So it's just a real shortcut to me to, like, again, it's fun starting with a wrist check, because I kind of get a sense of you guys. It's very economic. I economically get to a point where I'm like, okay, I've got to read on these three. But that's what we do. You kind of, they carry a lot of meaning. They're very intentional things. You never accidentally put on a watch. Most of the time it's put on with an intention of, it either serving a purpose or expressing something. And I just find them to be extremely interesting little things. And so many times in my life, a very innocent question of, oh, Roger Federer, tell me about that watch. It just leads to a disclosure that was the best answer of my interview with him. And that's kind of where I started to think, there's something left on the table at the moment, and I want to try and bring that more to the front with Time+Tide. Of course, things have changed a lot since then. So that was the initial drive I felt like maybe others would engage with content that was more story based, but I suppose the business is almost unrecognizable now. Like, that was our starting point, but where we finished is vastly inconceivably different to where I started. And if I could go back in time, speaking of time, and talk to that guy in 2013, I just think he'd think I was drunk.
What actually originally inspired you to start Time+Tide in the first place? Were you a collector and consuming content and thinking, hey, I can do that better, that sort of thing? Or was it something else?
No, man, none of those things. That's what's, I suppose, makes Time+Tide invariably different, is that I've still never been on a watch forum in my life. I've never been on Reddit ever to see what's happening in the watch community. I've never really I've never taken my collection anywhere to show people. I've only been to get-togethers long after Time+Tide. So I saw it as a business opportunity, and I saw it as a very story-rich area for a journalist. And the other thing, the honest truth of it is that if you took watch advertising away from print media, it would collapse instantaneously. The whole world of print media, because print generally is for a higher socioeconomic group. So usually there are fairly wealthy people reading print media. So most print media is supported by watch advertising, which meant that as a journalist, there was always money for me as a freelancer if I could write watch features. So I knew that there was money there for journalists, and therefore I knew that there'd be potentially some interested advertisers if I started a platform. And then I knew that I could be interested for a period of time, because stories and watches are just a horse and carriage. So there was a good little perfect storm there for me to, in the same way that I saw that Maton, one of the great guitar companies in the world, needed a hardcover book to celebrate their anniversary and to celebrate their business in a way that needed to be done. I saw that the watch industry in Australia didn't have a major digital player, and I saw that it was working in the States and in Asia with titles that I'm sure need no shout out, because we know who we're talking about, but there wasn't one for our country. And all these things combined to be a business decision. I was already a watch editor, because again, if I ever needed a few bucks as a journalist, I just wrote to GQ and said, hey, do you need any watch stories written? They're like, hell yeah, like 20, because they're the only companies and brands that are advertising in our magazine. So that's the strange place that I came from. It was sort of I diverted as a journalist into sort of watch journalism, and then I diverted again and went even deeper into specialist watch media. And then what do you know it? Watchville came along, and we were, I think, the 6th or 7th brand to join Watchville, which was the aggregated app the watch media in the world, and I think we filled in a nice little spot as a Southeast Asian representation. Well, actually, there was a few from Singapore, so I guess we were the Australian representation on that. And then, yeah, the great but very brief sort of era of collaborative watch journalism commenced with Watchville. That was a fantastic period where we were all on the same app and watching each other's stuff and competing for numbers, and that was just the most fun, that period. It was sort of a nice little, very small golden age for all of the titles that now everything's so fragmented. There's just thousands of podcasts and Instagram accounts and YouTube channels, but back then it really was like a few titles, and we were lucky to sneak in as the last one. I think we were certainly the last like masthead title to get that sort of I suppose masthead type of status, like, the monochrome, Fratello, Revolution, Time+Tide just snuck in there. I honestly think it's like Maxwell Smart. Or Indiana Jones, we just pulled our hat, the door went down, and since then, I'd say that sort of website-based legacy watch media has kind of shifted into other platforms.
What year was that actually that you started?
2014.
2014?
Yeah. So I was dilly-dallying around with GQ Watch Editor, and I was sort of one of only a handful of watch journalists in Australia at that time. So there weren't many others who could probably take that step to, corral the industry into a digital platform. But yeah, because it's not the answer people expect. Usually people would go back and rewrite history and say, I've always been into watches. I'm really passionate. I'm a collector. None of those things. I was a media entrepreneur and someone who, again, the authenticity of it is that I truly was just staggered at how story rich these objects are and how you can bring someone to tears by asking them about their watch. And you've said is, hey, tell me about that. Well, this is actually a gift from my father. Oh yeah. What was he like? And then fucking tears. It's just game on. And, well, it's an amazing little memory vehicle. And that's really the original pull. I wouldn't have lasted if that wasn't a part of the mix. Like all of those sort of right brain reasons are good and well, but you can't sustain a business if you don't find a passion. And I found a passion early, lost it in the middle, refound it, and now I'm just completely obsessed. And I truly struggle to sleep most nights because of the excitement level of everything we're doing. So it's a funny story, twists and turns.
That's very cool. I remember there was an early YouTube channel, based in Australia called Friends of Oris that I used to watch. I don't know if you know that one. It was kind of cheesy. It was an Oris dealer that was just talking about the latest releases, and it was kind of neat. Of course, with the Australian accent, made it kind of charming.
I think I remember that guy, but I didn't see the channel. Yeah,
I don't know if it's still around. It probably isn't, but it was cool back in the day. So you've worked in print media as a journalist and an editor. How did that background influence the way you approach watch media today?
Probably in the early days, just really wanting to apply watch journalism to the same sort of standards as the best of print media. That was a new idea because a lot of the mastheads or a lot of those brands we mentioned, RJ was in finance, Frank was a public servant, Ben, I think, was in finance. And then went to journalism school afterwards. He retrofitted his kind of degree. Way, I mean, God knows, Way could have been anything. I think it was everything. It was a cowboy. He's in the movies. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I was very much from a journalism background, and there was a lack of that sort of, how do I say, that there just wasn't that same rigor applied to watch journalism. It was just really heavy, passionate, enthusiast sort of driven responses that perhaps didn't have the same care around or the same thought around narrative and around expression that as a journalist and as a print media. As soon as when you talk about print media, I mean, my heart rate just rises because it's such a zero-sum game. Like you commit to something, it can't be edited when it's printed. Therefore, there's just a high level of care. And in the early days of Time+Tide, we really wanted to bring that approach, the print media level of care and creativity and that meticulous print media touch that wasn't perhaps as evident at the time. But again, I say I have a bit of a smile on my face as I talk about it, because that's what mattered so much to me at the time. And now it's like, I think we do great work and I think we tell good stories, but it's the focus of the business quickly shifted to the media, the modern media sort of priorities, which is so much less about that than they are about immediacy, about
first to publish,
formats, about being first to market, about all of the, breaking the embargo to get the scoop. Like, all these things has got nothing to do with that slow and old fashioned approach to high quality journalism and media. But it's almost quaint. It's cute that it mattered so much to me at the time. But I do have a smile on my face, because while I still think Time+Tide prides itself on a certain level of quality and certain level of diligence in our work, it's certainly not the North Star as it was back then. But that was, Bob, to answer your question, that was, and Mark, it was all about that in the beginning. I'm looking at all of these publications that were clearly written by people who aren't journalists, and they had their strengths. Like Fratello was this community-driven platform that I was just in awe of what they built around the Speedmaster, and around their editions were just groundbreaking. It was again, it's sort of funny to think that these people later have just become allies and competitors and colleagues and friends. And then you had Monochrome, just so rigorously factual, but with no real sort of thought for that
narrative
creative
story
angle or narrative and story. And you had Revolution, which was such a florid and sort of, he's quite a literary. He has his editor's letters are always worth a read. So there was, all of this is how I saw the landscape back then. I thought we can make a difference. We can get a name. We can become globally renowned for this different editorial approach. And that was the plan A.
Well, while we're talking about print media and your love for it, there's a story out there about you launching Time+Tide at Baselworld with a printed newspaper in hand.
Oh my God.
An almost guerrilla style debut. So if you look back at those early scrappy days, what did that kind of risk taking, I guess, teach you about business?
That's a good question. It probably taught me that, because that's exactly what I did. I printed a newspaper announcing a website. And the newspapers cost me $20 each, because they were on the heaviest gram weight paper. I made sure that they were stitched by a Singer sewing machine with this red thread down the side. It was a beautiful, beautiful object that had a letter that was stitched onto the front. I mean, if you could ever find one of these, they're true artifacts. And it shows me how myopic I was as a business builder at that time. I just saw things from my point of view. This is what I thought everyone would want. Therefore, I did exactly what, from my single and egoistic point of view, or egocentric point of view, I think the whole industry is going to be delighted to see that someone's bringing back a masthead level of journalism to watch media. And I don't think anyone fucking cared. They were all just like, thank you for this beautiful object. I can't fold it, because it was so high quality that you felt bad even rolling it. So they were like, and when they did fold it, I'd always be like cringing. So, but now I just cringe at the whole fucking idea, because it's just so, again, it was like, that's what Andrew wanted to exist. But I hadn't really thought much about what was going to, what the industry needed. Whereas I think now as an entrepreneur, I have such a simple way to look at the world. What is your problem? How much would you pay to fix it? And how much will it cost me to fix it? And if there's a good differential between how much it'll cost me to fix what's broken for you and how much you'll pay for it, we got a ball game. I had no idea. I was just handing around these newspapers saying, Time+Tide's here. The stories will be better. Get on board. And I think everyone was just deeply confused. You give me a print publication to announce a website that doesn't exist yet? It's like, what the fuck?
Well, since those early days, Time+Tide has certainly evolved. It's now a content platform, and it's kind of a media retail hybrid. It's a community, obviously, and it's pretty much a global brand. So as a writer, first and foremost, how do you navigate the shift from word to walls, or from publishing stories to the physical spaces that tell those stories?
Man, you guys are giving me quality questions today. I'm thinking everything through on its merits here, and that's a good one. Look, it's not as much a disjuncture, or it's not as sort of much a chasm as it sounds. You know, like it's sort of Chinese water torture or death by 1,000 cuts. We just slowly, bit by bit by bit, found ourselves. I did start to become an entrepreneur. I did start to, where I started with the world's worst launch strategy, I ended up with, honestly, I think one of the world's best evolved watch products, which is this evolution of retail. But the steps in between the newspaper launch of a website to where we are now, there's so many little micro adjustments in there, if I can use a watch pun or a watch analogy. But really, it just became about, where are people consuming media, and how has that changed? And what is the missing piece between the inspiration that media, even like your podcast, where if you're creating desire, where is the missing link between learning it, like hearing about Storm? Like, let's go back 10 years. There's a new micro brand, I'm trying to think, called, let's just play a game here. 7 Friday. There's a new micro brand. Guess what? It's come out. Someone's listening going, Mark's describing in detail, it has a parabolic thing, and it's got an amazing micro adjust class, got this and this. How frustrating that there's nowhere for me to experience that I just have to then go and Google it, find something about it, find out if I can buy it online, find out if it's a drop or available. Just so frustrating. So I guess in the many micro adjustments from the newspaper that we started with to where we are now, the biggest bridge that was missing between what we were doing in media and what the consumer, the reader, is doing over here, the biggest River Kwai bridge that was missing was, how can I experience a Christopher Ward in the metal in Australia? Andrew, stop talking about Doxa. I can't buy this watch. Andrew, I can't even buy a khaki field in Australia. Please stop creating desire. So I just ultimately had everyone pushing me to build a bridge, but they didn't know they were pushing me to build a bridge until it all started when I got to Basel and saw a Doxa stand, and I knew that I badly wanted to connect with this brand. And they had a really great, it was like 130th anniversary, sub 200 with an orange secondhand that was like €1,000. And all these just pieces started to fit together, and I went in and said, hey, and they were like, oh, you're the guy from YouTube. And I said, yeah, I want to distribute you in Australia. And they were like, oh, okay, funny you say that, because we're looking for it. So I guess the bridge started to build itself. And then when we succeeded with Doxa, we started to build up a bit of Dutch courage. It's like, after a few beers, you're going to go and ask the girl out. So Doxa was a few beers, and then the girl we asked out was Hamilton. And then they said, yep, we've seen what you did with Doxa, and we're interested. And we sold 1,000 watches in our first year of Hamilton. And then the walls started to form around us. We started to see. And then the pandemic hits, and we started a Micro Mondays column in, I think, 2018 or 19. So we'd already started playing with micros. But then, of course, the microwave comes in the pandemic. And, you know, this kooky brand, Studio Underdog, that we did a piece on the day the Kickstarter campaign launched, starts to become more than just a little thing, and there's others, and now we built the bridge. So the bridge is we're starting to connect people with these brands that they can't get. And then suddenly it's the world saying, well, it's not just Australia asking for Hamilton, you can get that everywhere else. It's the world asking for Microbrands. And then that's when we had enough courage and pluck to say, okay, let's expand this model again. Try it in Melbourne, it worked. Try it in London, it worked. Try it in New York, we'll see.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you've built Time+Tide into a blend of journalism, community, and commerce. How do you maintain credibility and authenticity while scaling up?
because we curate. We only choose brands that, again, why would Etienne from Baltic and Richard from Underdog and Andrea from Fairlane, why would they come with me in the first place? Because I was covering their watches from a passionate enthusiast basis before there was a single commercial dollar to change hands. So this is just a continuation of the brands that I've been curating for media. And I've been truly, like Doxa and Hamilton, it's such an odd mix, but the consistent through line is that these are brands that we've been cheering for from the media side since the beginning of the business. So there's consistency, there's authenticity, there's no sort of bizarre, and here's Jacob and Co, and here's Avanti, and we've been very, I would say, stubbornly true to our passions in that, and when you said, I think you were saying before about, in terms of brands, that a brand has to show me something to get into the studio, and Strom is a brand that I'm as excited about as when I saw Underdog for the first time. So I would say that how do we maintain credibility? It's just remaining true to the sort of the taste that we've had since we launched Time+Tide. And, again, it's down to the person to decide whether they believe me when I say I love this stuff. And I think that I say I don't love enough stuff for people to go, when he says he loves it, I kind of believe him. And that's where these podcasts come into play, because when you see me on Time+Tide, I'm usually saying, how fucking cool is this new Longines Spirit? Look at the way they've refined this. Look at the way they've taken tips from the Black Bay 58 and refined a platform here. You only see me promoting stuff, but on About Effing Time, at least half of the time, you saw the other side, the dark side of the moon, which is that there's a lot of brands I don't like. There's a lot of watches I don't rate. There's a lot of things I object to. I have a lot of feelings, and I was able to show a bit more of the whole picture. And that's why I'm glad you mentioned them early. I think About Effing Time was a reinvention. Like I mentioned, losing passion in the middle of the Time+Tide journey. I definitely found it again with About Effing Time, because I think people were just sort of shocked to see the sales guy. It's almost like truly you see the planet revolves, and the bit you're used to seeing, there's a whole other side to it. And I didn't even realize what I was doing, because I'm always me. I'm always talking about what I like and don't like, but you only really see the one side on Time+Tide. So accidentally, by hanging out with two friends and shooting the breeze and getting into all kinds of fistfights over fucking everything, suddenly the integrity and credibility was sort of it was suddenly there, and I was surprised, because I'm like, I haven't changed. But it was just no one ever lit up and asked me questions. I'd never got to have those conversations before, because on Time+Tide, that's not our role. Our role is to break news. It's to pick out the watches we like from the releases, and it's to support the brands that support us. So it was a totally different persona, and since revealing it, I've been so much happier, because people now feel like they connect with the whole person, not just the sales guy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very cool.
So what do you think Time+Tide does differently from traditional watch media or newer influencer-driven platforms?
Well, I'd like to say that there's still a little bit of that, in the same way that the business was created by a person who wasn't from that world. I feel that there's still a bit more of a welcome to people outside of watches. In our tone, we have very strict style guides around the way that we write. We are the opposite of if you know, you know. I think Time+Tide is more, now you know, and and we're quite happy to help you know what the YK people are talking about. So I think we've brought a welcoming tone, and I think that persists. And I think our mission has been discovery, and that's why the studios are called Discovery Studios, because we want everyone who comes in to discover something. And I think we always wanted people who come to the website to discover, as opposed to peer in on a secret club where everyone's like, and again, it staggers me when other founders of media businesses like mine have IYK on their Instagram posts. It's like, you do realize how shit that makes everyone feel, right? Like, are you appealing to just the click? Because if that's what you're trying to do, you're succeeding in that. But every time I see it, I think that is exactly the opposite of what Time+Tide exists for. So we are NYKYK, and I'm more than happy to be the one that helps people discover stuff that made them feel inferior, or that was a barrier to entry, or that previously felt like some sort of private club. So I think that's what makes us different.
What were some pivotal or surprising moments in Time+Tide's journey, good or bad, that shaped its direction?
So many, Mark. Come on, give me more. give me more detail. Some surprising moments. Okay, I was really surprised by how much impact bringing brand people into the business had on the business. Like, there's been a couple of key people I brought in from Amiga and from Tissot. Actually, Swatch Group seems to be the main place for me to plunder. So many of my team from Swatch Group. But having brand people come into this business just completely unlocked a lot of the Da Vinci Code that locks journalists and microbrands out of huge success in this industry. And I say huge success, but as in our level of success, I would say is there's if you unpack it, it's having some brand people inside our team now, educating all of us about how the brands see the world. Because there is a real ivory tower of the Swiss watch brands and the real luxury watch brands. And I think, as commentators on this industry, that a lot of the time we feel on the outside of that, and we feel like there's some sort of, like, why aren't they listening? Why aren't they? So it's helped me a lot to have some key people in our team explain to me what happens in that Illuminati lockout and how we can navigate that better. And you will see over the coming 6 months and year that we're actually learning to play that game better than ever, because you have to play that game. This is an industry that is there's a lot of laser beams in this room when you turn the light off that you do not see until you have someone turning the lights off and showing you where they all are. I was walking through this room like entrapment, Catherine Zeta-Jones, that's showing my age, by the way. But I'm just walking through this room going, why
are you wearing the catsuit, or are you just...
for the audience's sake, I'm wearing a catsuit. Yeah, it is liquid, skin tight. Apologies for the image. No, I just was walking through this room going, why is nobody supporting my business? Why does nobody want to take my calls? Why can't I get CEO interviews? I had no idea. And it was a real game changer for us to have industry people come inside and say, Andrew, I can tell you exactly why. And then, here's where the laser beams are. Let's dodge them. Let's get through, like the Louvre heist. So we've ended up getting so much deeper into this industry with the help of some people in our team.
I just want to say I have another different question for you, but I actually got to experience your London studio during the British Watchmakers Day. And Cool. It was very welcoming. I met you just briefly. You were busy. It was during the Gimlet release was happening.
Oh my God, the best night, maybe the best night ever. It was
so fun. That was
we were talking last night. We said, because we had an event last night with Gary Neville and Noor Kane, and we were saying, where does that sit? And everyone was like, well, number 2 to Gimlet. So it was a really good night. It was a drunken night, but nothing beats. The Gimlet took our cleaner. She said that there were 3 layers of vodka on the floor. It wasn't just, there was a top layer. It was like an Analdane enamel. There was so many layers because the Gimlets were served in martini glasses. By the way, quick sidebar. Richard Bentz and Nicholas Bowman Scargill created a Gimlet bar to celebrate the launch. And a Gimlet, as far as I can tell, and this is very precise, it's vodka with a splash of vodka, add a shot of vodka, and then finish it off with just a slight twist of vodka. That's a Gimlet. So it is basically a medical instrument. If you've got a cut, you just put a Gimlet on it. But basically, they serve Gimlets You're laughing because you're probably still hungover, Bob.
Yeah, seriously.
You serve gimlets in martini glasses. Terrible idea, because the music was loud. Did you see Roger Smith do that speech? Were you there for when Roger Smith did the speech with Mike France?
No, I actually came in late, and as you're mentioning the floor, I can remember my shoes were sticking.
It's just debaucherous. So rumors that I created all of this to sustain my alcoholism, you're not helping me with this anecdote, but yeah, that was a great night. I'm very happy that you came on that night, because that actually is a goat so far. That's a goat.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah.
So so you've chatted with tons of different people in the watch world. Was there ever the pinch me moment? Like, what am I doing here? Was there a certain person?
It was that night, Bob. It was that night. I talk about this on Monochrome. Like, Frank called me and said, "Hey, I want to chat to you about this thing you're doing." And he said, when was a night that or what was an experience that just had you just freaking out? And it was that night, because Roger Smith was there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in a sort of a little huddle with Mike France and Paul Sweetenham from Farah, and they've got a little crew going. And then at one point, it's like, the music was so loud, and he comes over, he's like, "Is there a PA here?" And I was like, yeah. "Hi, Roger, by the way." He's like, he's had a few gimlets. And we turned the PA on, fired it up. He grabbed the mic and just said things that just sort of warmed me up. And I'm still kind of warm from it, because he just said along the lines of, we needed this place. We needed a town square where we can come and get drunk and celebrate British Watchmakers Day, because all the brands were letting their hair down after an absolutely mental British Watchmakers Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the year, no, it wasn't the year of the pizza, that was the year before, but we'd had another big year of, we had the Time+Tide cafe at the British Watchmakers Day, where we sold pizzas and burgers. There were all cases and everything. It was just a silly thing. But all the brands the year before, they all just sort of scattered to the winds. Whereas this year, all the brands came to Time+Tide to let their hair down, and Rich and Nick put on the bar, and everyone got hammered. And but having Roger say, this really helps our momentum as an industry. This helps our bonding. This helps our cohort to have this space. And thank you for making it. And he just said, "I just wanted to do a speech to thank you for making Time+Tide London." It's just a moment where I couldn't even bring myself to respond. I just went, kind of gulped, and then Mike France took it, because I was awkwardly just not saying anything. And then he went on his merry way with how, it is a true threatening sector. Like, the British watchmaking is threatening something right now. And it felt significant. It felt like not quite a Sermon on the Mount or a Gettysburg Address, but it was a special moment for the industry, and for me to host that moment was the best feeling. Yeah, so nothing amazing about me, nothing about the business. It was about Time+Tide as a platform, a location, a historical venue that anyone that was there had their hairs raised by that moment. And I think since then the industry continues to thrive. So Isotope's part of that, Mark. It's a good brand you've chosen a good horse there, and we love Jose and Isotope. So it's another small part of a pretty big battleship.
That's incredible. Hopefully I'll be able to attend next year.
Come along. It's mental. Yeah.
So switching gears to podcasting here, you've mentioned before that you're a co-host of About Effing Time with George Bamford and Adrian Barker, three very different personalities. And I remember once comparing that podcast to the orological version of Top Gear. What was the original concept behind that show?
It was just chemistry. The concept was chemistry. We ran into each other by accident at Watches and Wonders, and it was instantly there. And it didn't improve. It didn't degrade. It was whatever that was just lightning in a bottle. And afterwards, it was just like a date where you kind of like, I feel like texting the person already. And within an hour of that, there were texts flying around of just like, that felt so fun. So it was just chemistry. And you know it when you got it, when there's a good mix of people. And we knew that we weren't going to agree on nearly anything. And we went into that with our eyes open, knowing that it was going to get wild. And that was part of the fun. And I think the best episodes are the ones where there's just total disagreement and total chaos. They're my favorite episodes so far.
They were a lot of fun to watch, especially the ones where you guys went off with a budget and went to, it's very similar to Top Gear, where you had 3 shit cars and you had to drive 600 miles to wherever. It was fun, man.
That episode, if I could do Bond Street over and over and over again, we would have. It's just that the production started to.
Oh yeah.
The problem was the cost of that show was just something we'd never really factored in, and Time+Tide, I suppose, bore the brunt of that production burden. And that things immediately, as the success grew, the infrastructure did not. So to answer your question ahead of time, why did it end? It was that episode. It was episode that they were so great to do, and they were so much, to me, they were so clearly the way for us. But we had no one ever working on the business, so we just couldn't raise funds to do more of that. But we knew we wanted to, and we saw the economy of scale in doing Watches and Wonders in the boiler suits. And again, I look back so fondly on my favorite thing about that show was just that it created a brand that was bigger than all of us. And if I show you in the stairs that lead down to my basement here in London, have the big, there was a huge decal we did for the Christmas party, and that's still on a huge one. It's like probably a meter by a meter or more, a meter and a half. It's absolutely massive. Still have it on the stairs and I can look at that and feel good about the show, because it's when you create a band, there's always there's a fourth person, or there's something that's bigger than those 3 people.
The entity itself, yeah.
Yeah, and I can still look back very fondly, and I see that logo. It gives me a real charge to think, again, 4 million people a month were watching us for 18 months straight. So it was a big audience, and it changed my life. And my kids are now very used to all that goes with that. And I'm very grateful that we had that we struck gold. And it's just so rare to do that. And I still love AET, and I still wear the merch. And yeah, my brother turned up out of the blue from Bali a couple of days ago wearing an About Effing Time hoodie. And again, I got a charge out of that. So it'll probably be floating around for a while, maybe forever. I don't know. It seems to be the thing that people connected with the most. And when they see me, when they come up to me with that look, I'm like, it's almost certainly going to be that. And it almost always is.
That's cool.
Yeah. The cool thing is, when you described your banner, you're talking to Canadians, so we actually know what meters are.
Yes, there's a lot of sensible things that we share, as opposed to other systems and sides of the road. Do you drive on the right or the left? You drive on the right.
On the right.
Yeah, well, you got that wrong, but everything else is good.
I don't know if I can shift with my left hand. I don't know. I've always wanted to drive the reasonably priced car in Top Gear, and I'm thinking to myself, if I get there and I have to shift with my left hand, and sit on the wrong side of the car, I don't know if I could do it.
In my world, it's my peril every time I'm in Switzerland. Just stay the fuck away from me if I'm on the road.
Just crossing the street is a danger in England.
I'm gonna die that way.
You're always looking the wrong way.
I'm gonna die in Geneva on the same way. What was it? Gaudi died walking back onto the road to look at his church. I'm gonna die just crossing the road.
So you mentioned the chemistry you guys had on About Effing Time, which was palpable. It was, really strong. What did you learn about creating engaging and unscripted conversations in that space?
I just learned that chemistry is everything. You can't make it. You can't force it. You can, on paper, have 3 right people, but you have to actually have a director, because if I see anything happen over and over and over again, it's 3 guys who furiously agree with each other after six long necks, just going, we should do a podcast. And it's like, well, if you're all agreeing with each other, it's immediately a no, because you shouldn't, because no one's going to tune in to hear people furiously agree with each other. And secondly, you need a director. You need someone like Marcus, for me, who I said to him after our little tete-a-tete in the halls outside Rolex, was that any good? And he was like, dude, that was great. And he's very harsh. He'll often say, it not only was it not good, it was fucking terrible. We're not producing it. That's not going into pipeline. Whereas after this, he was saying, that was great. There's some weird vibe there. So it can't all be furious agreement, because, if the best podcasts, the best shows are always distinctly different characters that have different identities. And I would encourage every podcast to craft identities, as in know your lane. We didn't need it, but then if the chemistry is really strong and the characters are already as they are, even better. But, Guy Ritchie creates different identities for all of his characters, and he always has them in the opening credits just to tell you, this is this one, this is this one, this is that one. So there's a few tips there, but definitely if you're all agreeing with each other, it's boring as hell. And you need a fourth person to validate that someone would find it interesting, because I want to do a podcast with Phil Toledano, but I'm pretty sure that only Phil and I would ever listen to it. So it doesn't progress. I find him the most hilarious and eclectic and unpredictable and just brilliant person. But I know that Marcus would probably say, dude, this is niche.
I always kind of am curious when we're talking to fellow podcasters, like how planned out, for your process, how planned out were those episodes, or were you guys just hitting the record button and embracing the chaos of it all?
No, hell no. I'm a media dude. I'm a media professional. Yeah. There were show notes, there were plot lines, there were 3 points we had to hit. There were cutouts from the main show that we knew would become reels. We were picking viral moments within episodes before we even started recording them. That does not just happen. The best shows. I mean, my favorite ensemble shows are my favorite ensemble podcast has always been Smartless. 3 guys who have great chemistry: Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. All friends, already a good degree of affection, wildly different personalities. But I could tell that their production smarts made this effortless, chaotic sounding show. It was so meticulously, they were such pros. They knew exactly how to hit their beats, and every episode had beats. So no, it was intensely planned. Obviously you plan to be spontaneous as well. There are parts where I had no idea what George would say or Adrian would say, but we had show notes for every single episode. And as the show went on, the show notes got quite detailed in terms of hit these beats, because I became more and more aware that you look at episode 1 and then you look at season 3, this vastly different. Episode 1, we're all so quiet and it's like a guitar that's not tuned quite right, because there's very slack moments in it, and it's pretty different to the way it ended up. So 100%. And this is the other thing, I don't know, just don't be fooled. The most effortless podcasts are probably the ones that are most meticulously planned. And again, it doesn't mean you're scripted. If you have an identity within the show, you're completely free to be that person. But just know your beats and know your plot points, so that you don't start to just dribble.
Yeah, I agree 100%. If you look at our first shows compared to where we are now, we put a lot of work into.
I mean, they're much worse. Sorry, you left yourself open to that.
I did. Our guests are getting better with every episode. How about that?
Well, the guests are definitely getting worse. So, yeah.
But it's true. We do work very hard on putting together an outline with the questions we want to answer. We may tweak them as we go along, and our personalities show through what we do. But I agree. We put a lot of work into it in researching and doing proper research. I think that's the most important thing, especially for an interview podcast. Now, talking about podcasts, you started A Matter of Time, and you've teamed up with Eleanor Picciotto and Christian Hagen. What prompted that collaboration, and how does it differ from the focus you had on About Effing Time?
I kind of gave my secret away a little earlier, which is that about 2 episodes into About Effing Time, I realized that Time+Tide, and I realized that something was starting to, when a fire just starts to take, and that was happening. I was like, this is really important that this side be shown through this podcast. for Time and Tide's sake, because I was increasingly becoming like I suppose a figurehead, or I was becoming increasingly connected to the business was getting bigger, but I was becoming more visible. And I realized that I have to have an outlet for the whole self. And when About Effing Time ended, it wasn't long before, and Christian and I had been voice messaging, but we had this podcast going in our WhatsApp where he'd send me a 5-minute voice message, I'd send him one, he'd send me one, and we had this idea that we would do a podcast based around these voice messages. But then I put it to the blade, and there was too much agreement. Christian and I are too similar. We just, our voice messages were often like, dude, what is it with this? And I'd be like, exactly. What is it with that? Why? And then he'd be like, dude, I love this. I'd be like, so do I. So I put it to the sword. We agreed with each other too much. So it killed it. We killed it. We were going to start a show that had a great name that I'm going to save for something else. And it might, maybe it will emerge. Who knows? But we didn't have it. And then one day at a press day, Ellie was seated with us, and she disagreed with everything both of us said. And I was just like, oh, that reminds me, that feels familiar. I think, and then we decided that there aren't enough women that have strong opinions in the industry, and we knew that she'd cop flack for that. But I know she can cop it, and she takes it, she gets energy from it. So there were a lot of X factors in there. She's beautiful. She's complicated, and she's just a firebrand. She just has her own mind, and you don't have to agree with her, and she never agrees with me. But my instincts as a content media guy were just like, this is watchable, and certainly the traction on social in particular it was hitting 1 million people a month within like 2 weeks, in terms of people that a lot of people watching and not commenting or liking, a lot of people watching and disagreeing. And yeah, we had a pretty strong instant traction with it. But yeah, it was different to About Effing Time, because it didn't just fall into our lap. It was more Christian and I wanting to do something, and then me kind of saying, well, I don't know, we're too similar. Where maybe there's a spice that's going to make this cake a little tastier, and that was Ellie. And if she's a spice, she's chili for sure. She was chili and cinnamon.
Yeah, it's a very good podcast, and it's also neat to see the perspective of people who have collected at a much higher level than most of the other podcasts that we listen to. And so seeing their experiences with these watches that are aspirational is kind of neat. So it's good for you for bringing her in.
Yeah, and like I think Christian still stays in touch. His latest new watch alert is a Milgraph. So he's at a high level, but he's still very interested in the micros. And I think I'm slowly but surely working away on Ellie. I think she's bought a Disco Volante finally.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
You need to get her a Christopher Ward.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have it thrown in my face to be dead. Just knuckled with it. No, it's fun. And they're two people that are, to me, just big personalities. And I don't know, I just want to keep bringing it. Like the Time and Tide as a publisher and as a broadcaster, we're always looking for those combinations, and it'll keep happening. There'll be different combinations. There'll be some shows that go to multiple seasons, some shows that are one show only or one season only. And, you know, we're just going to keep playing with that sort of, the chemistry of great media. And, you know, I absolutely, that's what I love to do. That's become, when I talk about what Time and Tide started as a journalistic platform with good stories, it's even that is so far removed from, I'm looking for talent now. I'm sort of like a talent scout, as in out there looking for people that are great new voices and that are bringing the heat, because it's such a different ball game now. Like, you can't be a journalist sitting at a beautiful mahogany desk, you know, writing stuff with a quill, and the world goes, oh my goodness, what a great watch review. You have to be a voice, a persona, a host, an expert, a relatable figure. You can be all of those things, but if you're really good at it, it's like, look at Adrian's success, and, you know, Ben's Watches is a new one. If you build yourself as a relatable, consistent character that is bringing watches on a daily basis, you will build an audience. So it's my role's changed, but that's an example of me seeing talent and going, Christian's huge talent, Ellie's huge talent. Let's do it.
Speaking of that, how do you balance all those roles, between the platforms of being a journalist, an editor, a founder, co-host, without losing any of that creative energy? And does no days off have anything to do with it?
It does, yeah. No days off has just come about by, I just have an energy quantum issue. So much energy is needed to get through a day that I was experimenting with ways to create it. And yeah, me starting the day with half an hour of exercise, it's just super bland. Like Seinfeld won't talk about the fact that he's a no days off guy because nothing's less funny than someone talking about exercise. So I'll keep this brief, but you've nailed it. I can do what I do across all these things because I've found that the best battery, the best power source is just to start the day with exercise every single day. And that's the secret, out loud and proud.
You've talked to us a lot already about the gap that you think that Time+Tide has filled in the marketplace. And yet at the same time, you've also said that Time+Tide should never become purely transactional. So how do you balance that idea of being the retailer with also being that authentic journalism, community-driven spirit that defines your brand?
Good question. The way we can avoid being transactional in London is because we have a good flow of customers that allows us to not pressure them with their dwell time. Like, to talk from a retail operations point of view, dwell time's a factor. When you're at Watches Switzerland, you can't serve a customer for 3 hours if they're going to buy a Longines or a Tudor, because you've got other people to serve. You've got bigger basket size on the table if someone comes in wanting a Patek, or let's talk about a brand you can buy, wanting a Breguet. You're going to quickly ditch your Longines person and serve your Breguet, give them 3 hours, and they walk out with a 60K watch instead of a 2K watch. So I get that you need to be mercenary about these things when you've got when that's your operation, your model. However, in our space, with our customer flow, it's quite possible for us to allow someone a 90-minute dwell time to buy a Studio Underdog. And the other reason that we will allow that without there being any sense of pressure is that we are service over sales in the first few years of our business. We are building a legend with our reviews that is just critical. It's a critical piece. And every 5-star review gets shared on our channels. I will see every single 5-star review. And now that's getting to be a lot of the WhatsApp channel is reviews, but I just will not take the eye off the ball that we need hundreds. We need a lot of people to enjoy the experience for us to maintain this reputation for a non-transactional dynamic. But I will say it's a little bit easy when the customer flow is appropriate. In London, we have 30, 40, 50 people through a day over 8 hours. That's quite comfortable. If you compare that to the boutique that my store manager came from, he had 2 to 4 people a week. I won't mention the name. If you do know it, don't mention it, please. But it's it's easy to be non-transactional when you have a steady flow of customers, because you can say, take it or leave it. Next customer, it's all good if you go and have a look around. But you can also you can give people a lot of your time when there is enough space around the customers to, if we had 1,000 customers a week, it would be a little bit different. We'd sort of have to be finding the customers that we could serve them, but the dynamic would change. I don't know if anyone has 1,000 a week, maybe Kith or Aimley on Door, or I'm trying to think in watch retail, certainly no one. But yeah, I'm answering that really honestly because we have just enough people coming through to give them as much time as they want. It does turn out to be an exponentially higher number than any other retail store, but I still consider that we will not rush people, because that is the review that I want, and that is critical to our business model. We need to meet people on their level. We need to treat everyone's Studio Underdog purchase like it's a Rolex purchase. We need to meet people on their level and get as excited as they are about what they're about to spend. And for a lot of them, it's a big deal. Like a cab driver double parked, ran up, ordered a watermelon. We wanted to give him a beer and congratulate him. And he was like, this is my first ever big watch. but I have to go back and drive away because I'm parked downstairs. And we looked out the window and he's got a black cab down there with the hazard lights on. So, you know, it's a critical part of what we're building, that change dynamic. But there are a couple of things that make it possible.
That's wonderful. Let's change gears here for a second. So you wrote a book about guitars, and you even got a chance to interview Keith Richards. As a guitar builder myself, I'm curious. When it comes
you're a guitar builder? You're a luthier?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I'm a luthier. When it comes to guitars and watches, is it the instrument or is it the music? Is it the object or is it the emotion?
Oh, I'm not about the object. Maton wanted me to write this book, and they said, yeah, it's going to be great. No one knows that Elvis Presley wrote Heartbreak Hotel on a Maton. No one knows that the Beatles wrote Please Please Me on a Maton. No one knows that Keith Richards wrote Give Me Shelter on a Maton. And it just went on and on. I was like, are you guys serious? Nobody knows this shit. Are you like, this is going to be the best book of all time for music people. And I think it really, it's the thing I'm proudest of. If you put anything in my casket, don't put a Night Surfer in, put in the Maton book, because this was truly a story that had never been told. But they imagined a book with like sepia tinted photos of someone chiseling a guitar neck, and I'm asleep. I'm like, I'm not doing a book with pictures of people chiseling guitars. I don't give a shit about the item. It's a guitar. Tell me about the music that your guitar's made. Tell me where I can listen to a recording and hear a Maton guitar. And they were like, that is completely counterintuitive. That is completely arse about. That's the wrong way around. I'm like, that's the right way around. And I convinced them to name the book The Music That Maton Made. So I focused on the emotion, the artistry, the magic, the beauty that came out of Maton guitars. And I think that is one of my moments where I just actually got goosebumps, which is so narcissistic. Let me talk about my idea and then give myself goosebumps. But truly, that was a real, if I've got 3 flashes of inspiration that I can look back on and go, yeah, that was not bad. That was one of them, because that book then became Keith Richards telling us the day, what was the weather, where was he seated, when did he, what chord did he start with? Was it the first chord of Give Me Shelter? Was it that really loose, jangly sound? And I got the whole story. I got the weather. I got what else was in the room. I got the items. I got the smell. I got the taste. And I'm all about that stuff. I don't care what the guitar was. And I frankly, actually, this is a funny story. I was in our new Soho store, which is empty at the moment in Broome Street in Manhattan, a week ago, I think almost to the day. And it was to the day. And Jerome from Serica came in, and I gave him a tour of the empty space, and I said, it's going to be this and this and this and this. And I look out the window. He's a music freak. We have a playlist called Sounds of Serica on Spotify, and we add, no one knows this. I probably shouldn't be telling you. Maybe this is private. I know, too late. We add songs to this playlist all the time. I've turned my phone off so it doesn't buzz, so I can't show you. But we add songs to it all the time. And I know he's a guitarist, and I just knew he'd be a good guitarist. And we're standing up there at our windows, looking through the fire escape, which is the most New York building ever. And I say, that's Rudy's guitars down there. And he's like, no. And he said, we have to go. So after the tour, I took him down there, and we sat out the back in the Taylor section, because I'm a Taylor guy. I do think the guitar matters, by the way. And I think Taylors have the sweetest sound for the way I play. Like I'm an open string tuning, plucking guy. And we went and sat out the back, and both of us just played in drop D for like 20 minutes with this guy trying to sell us the guitars between us. It was like, dude, we're trying to make love here, and I've got this date chaperone blocking us. But we played guitars and in drop D, just completely sort of random, but the guitars were Taylors are so sweet when they're tuned. It was just the most beautiful thing. So I'm all about that. But at the same time, if you'd have put me in the Martin room, I would have said put me in the Taylor room. So I do have standards.
Well,
you're a luthier though. So what have you got a guitar you've made?
Oh yeah, well we make solid body electrics and semi hollow body electrics as well. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
there's
Who
but
plays them?
with
Any
well
bands?
me.
Anyone I know?
No, they're mostly small collectors. People
Hmm.
like bigger cities, Toronto, etc., who would place an order. But I kind of stepped back from doing that because I got tired of actually making guitars that people were asking for and not being able to make the guitars that I wanted. So now I'm down to making maybe one or two a year, and if they sell, they sell, and if they don't, they don't. But I had a good time making it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
It's great guitars from Canada, but that's a different story.
yeah. Well, I like Godin a lot actually. They're
Neil
great
Young,
guitar.
Joni
Yeah,
Mitchell, the
yeah,
guy from the
yeah.
Tea Party, is great Canadian guitar player.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Jerome, because there's a lot of guys that are out there that are in the watch space that are also huge music guys or instrument guys. Do you see any kind of philosophical connection between, I don't know, the like fine watchmaking and guitar craftsmanship being expressions of design or functional art, maybe?
There's a lot of microbrands and microbrand founders in this game for different reasons. There's a lot of founders, and there's a lot of reasons that they're in it. Some are in it to make a lot of money. Some are in it to run an exciting business and be an entrepreneur and to sort of read the trends and deliver the trends. There's all kinds of types, but there is a type that are more successful than others. And that type is a design-oriented founder. And I'll tell you the ones that are design-led to a point. You would not believe what it's like working with these people in an intimate level. And that's Richard Bentz, Jerome from Serica, and Andrea from Furl and Murray.
Yeah.
These are people who, all on the surface, in all their interviews, they're all sort of happy-go-lucky, friendly, laid-back guys. They are so intense and so incredibly serious about the detail, and that's their success. Like, there's three of the best brands in the game right now, and they are the brands that, in my view, the people that have the same design standards and sensibilities, and have, like, Richard's background totally demystifies Studio Underdog. Like, the unicorn factor is not a happy accident. It's not like a random kind of kiss, that blessing from some trend god. It all makes perfect sense. The more you get to know Richard, the more the success of Underdog becomes unsurprising or less surprising. So I would say that there are many motivations and there are many types of founders, but the people most obsessed with design and detail at that top level are the most successful. And Serica is a brand that is a fraction of the size it will get to if Jerome and the team want to get there. But he's way too focused on perfection, potentially, for there to be that scale anytime soon. But I hope he makes it work. I hope he finds a way, and I want to be part of it. I want to continue to be part of it. Like, the Serica brand is, it's just exceptional quality. And you can feel it when you turn the bezel. You can feel it in the hand. That's a brand that I would say highest conversion rate from zero by far in our studios. People will go in there thinking they want a ward or this or that and the other, and this isn't at the expense of ward. It's just, I encourage everyone. It's Discovery Studio. If you hear me as a broken record, I'm like, there are not enough watches on your tray. I know you've come in here thinking those two are the one you want. I'm going to pull out 5 more, and then more often than not, they come over going, "Oh, you killed me. Now I don't know what." So yeah, it's but then this group, it's such a joy to. I talked about having a flat moment before About Effing Time. I'm definitely in my peak right now because I get to hang out with these people all the time, and I get inspiration from their seriousness. Like, none of us are fucking around. Like, I've got my whole life on the line. I'm all in. Richard's all in. He doesn't need a plan B because he's rich enough already. But Jerome's all in. There's the other factor is commitment. Like, there's a lot of brands that are also moonlighting as something else, and people have 5 brands, and it's the ones that are just all in focused. And again, they're the same people. I'd list the same names. So good question. And yes, they are the ones that, in my view, are most likely to keep succeeding.
You know, I think it's easy to speak passionately about this, and you do, when we're talking about the designers and the creatives behind these products and the partnerships that you have with them. But now that Time+Tide is sort of a global juggernaut, you also have investors and business partnerships. As you grow, how do you preserve that sense of creativity, curiosity, and maybe even fun that you had all those years ago starting back in Australia?
Oh boy, that gets to the heart of it, really, because I shouldn't be having as much fun as I'm having. I shouldn't be peak fun because it's peak pressure. There are people who've invested in this business, but I've chosen our investors really carefully. And someone asked me this morning, what is the criteria for an investor? Because it's not an open invitation, and no matter what the ticket size is, it's just likely not to be an opportunity. So we choose our investors very carefully, and they have to be ready to have fun as well, and they have to be ready to lose their money. They have to be able to lose their money, and they have to get enough value out of the ride as I'm getting, and to be as focused as I am on the outcome, which is not entirely that focused. I'm so much about the journey in terms of getting everything right in the short term that I'm not going to be pushed into sacrificing anything for a long term. So there's this, if you choose your dance partners right, and they get enough value out of the WhatsApp messages you send them, if I'm sending you this as an investor, check out this thing that no one else can see, and I'm sending you this news, this is going to break in 2 weeks, you're the first to know it. I'm sending you this prototype of a limited edition months before. All our investors are people I send that stuff to, and they're getting the value out of their investment right away. It isn't like, hey, where are we at with our 3-year plan? Of course, I want to get to our 3-year plan, but that's the way that I keep it fun, is I choose our dance partners carefully. I've learned a lot from others' mistakes in this space. I've watched everything like a hawk. I know all the mistakes that have been made by others who've trod a similar path to us, and we're not going to make the same mistakes. We'll make different mistakes, and maybe we'll be someone else's cautionary tale, but I won't make the same mistakes. I won't be pushed into scaling too quickly. I won't be pushed into an investment group that don't have the same patience or the same passion. Everyone that's invested in this business is as excited as I am about what we're doing, and they're getting an increment of their money back every day in their access to the ride. So that's an important point. If I look at it the other way, and we'd taken all the money that had come at us, and there were people that were pushing us to reach these goals quicker, I would not be a happy person. I would probably look quite different. I'd probably not have hair and have even more wrinkles. But as it is now, I'm a pretty happy guy. And I think that my shareholder group, there's a lot of robust discussions. There's a lot of, we're not, I won't say that the Australianism, we're not here to F spiders, but we're not. We're deadly serious. But at the same time, we've got to enjoy this, and it's got to be done at a pace where I can continue to enjoy it. And everyone's a bit careful because, again, with me being, I suppose, so central to it all, you don't want a burnt out, frazzled looking Andrew who's just hanging on by a thread, even though I do feel like that sometimes. I have my moments. The jet lag is the thing that kills me. Like when I'm traveling so much, like in those low moments after a trip, I do feel exactly like that. But after an event like last night, I'm just running hot because we just had so much fun. And again, that's Norcane is a big part of our world. They're one of our high price watches, and we sold a couple yesterday. And the event, Gary Neville actually bought the ice cream at the event, the soccer player. So it was just this crazy fun time. So again, cool. I make it look fun, but that's because people that are involved in this business genuinely, I'm saying to them, is this going to be fun for you, or are you just going to be stressed out about your return? And if they're like, well, it's important that I make a return, I'm like, that's just not for you. I don't know where this will go. We're treading untrammeled ground, untrod ground. So if this ticket of entry is you're excited about what could happen next and the journey of it, let's go. If you're really desperately wanting that 10x, go and invest in fintech or AI or something.
Well, at least your beard is still brown, unlike Brent and I.
I don't dye this. There's a lot of comments on a matter of time suggesting that Andrew, stop dyeing your beard. I'm like, I use fake tan occasionally when I'm super pale, and maybe that gets in there, but this is brown. This is legit. And if you look closely, it's actually quite peppery. But
it's not peppery.
That's pure pepper.
There you go.
Oh, that's pure salt.
Mostly salt.
Yeah.
So the last few years have been quite turbulent and exciting for watchmaking. What changes do you think will define this era when you look back 10 years from now?
Oh, the pandemic was a massive moment. I felt like that opened up the game hugely. I think there were obviously a lot of the boom was worth the bust, in my opinion, because the game is so opened up now. There are so many more people sensitized to watches. There's so many more people wearing watches. So the pandemic was a defining moment. The bust will be a defining moment, but I think this trough that we'll enter will not be an abyssal existential end. But the pandemic was the defining moment for the rise of microbrands, the awareness of Rolex, and I think in the wake of the pandemic and in the wake of as the bust sort of gathers, there's just so much more pop cultural awareness of watches, and this is just hugely positive. So I would say that was the defining moment. The next defining moment will be when a Submariner hits retail, which I predict will occur. It won't be years away that we find that Rolex is accessible at retail, and when that happens, it'll be another great purge because all the speculators are fully gone at that point. And then you've really only got people who have AD histories with Patek and AP and Vacheron that are making any money off retail. So then it becomes, again, another great sort of Enlightenment era of people that are only in the game for passion. And you'll see the
great
continue.
equalizer.
It'll be the great leveler, equalizer.
Yeah.
And that will be our next moment of truth. And the crowd will thin out massively. But working against that is the rise in awareness and the pop cultural adoption of watches. Like now you cannot spot a celebrity without a watch spot being attached. And that's wonderful. Like Jean-Claude Biver says it best. It's a battle for the wrist. It isn't a battle for brand on brand. If brands are still fighting, there's a war going on. That's everyone's happy. I mean, I shouldn't use, I hate wars. I shouldn't use that example, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a battle for the wrist. And if people are wearing smart watches, everyone was saying the Apple Watch is going to kill the Swiss watch industry. And he from day one was like, are you kidding me? People wearing Apple Watches is going to intensify the desire for a real watch because it'll become ubiquitous. And he saw that whole play.
So he was one of the first with Tag Heuer with the connected watch. He was way ahead of the curve.
That was questionable, but I think it was fun. It was fun, but I think his overall brilliance is to say it's a battle for the wrist, and that's where the genius comes through. Whether that emerges as a category for Tag, I don't know. That's still, I'm glad to not have to be making those decisions, but from the outside, I think the prevailing wisdom that I got from him was absolutely, I just found that's true wisdom, to be able to say, if people are wearing things on their wrist, then the industry will be thriving. It's when the watch disappears from the wrist altogether, it's when that Apple Watch disappears and becomes meta glasses that are ubiquitous, that's when the industry is going to have a dire existential threat. Because if watches stop being fashionable for men, then everything changes. So, but I do not see that. I conveniently, and perhaps it's just wishful thinking, but I do not see that.
You mentioned Jean-Claude Biver. That's showing up in Baselworld with a print journal or newspaper. That's without a website actually being there, that's a very Jean-Claude Biver move.
He was one of the people that was like, what? How can I invest in this if it's not a print title? And then he's like, this is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I know your website because you tried to sell me something that doesn't exist. And he saw it. He's like, this is, but it didn't work. It was commercially unsuccessful, but it did put us on the map. I think, again, sometimes you can accidentally be a disruptor by doing something that you think's brilliant, that the whole industry thinks farcical, but at least it goes around. That was kind of a viral moment.
Yep, absolutely. So, independent and microbrands are thriving. How do you see their relationships with the large heritage houses evolving?
Well, we've seen a few dalliances. We've seen a few mashups. I think, Underdog with Moser, I guess they're both independent brands, but you're starting to see a little bit of bleed around the edges. I still think the Swiss don't really understand as a cohort. I don't feel that they really understand the microbrand space. You're just going to see continuing slow adoption though and absorption. Like at Dubai Watch Week, Richard has told me that he has a stand in the main hall next to some very high-end brands. And the Siddiqui family in their wisdom have decided that Studio Underdog deserves a main stage. So let me just leave it there and by saying that I think that there will be a very slow adoption of the micro brand cohort, but I don't that they move too slowly to ever really be across culturally where they stand and what the opportunities are. So I think that while there's an acceptance and a bit of an awareness, and I think GPHG will expand its categories, that there was a challenger category that originally was just Tudor's category every year. They won it every year. And then I think Doxa won it 1 year. And then but then Studio Underdog lost to Raymond Weil, thanks to the wisdom of the jury. And you're just like, what the hell? They just don't get it. Like, how could that be? Like, I was sitting there with Christian Hagen on my left and Chris Granger Air in front of me, and they won the Eternal that year for the Eternal calendar last year. And that was cool, actually, seeing Chris get up and just being able to clap him on the shoulder because, yeah, I won't tell that story, but there was a celebrity that sent me a voice message that I played to Chris that day saying, listen to this person tell you how good this watch is. And he's like, I appreciate that. I don't think the world really gets it. But then when they got the GPHG award for, I think it was the Aggie D'Or that year, it was he was tearfully happy. That was awesome. But when Richard didn't win against Raymond Weil, I'm like, this industry's just got no idea. So I still think they don't understand it, and I still think the opportunities I think the micro brands will continue just to eat up market share because they're just so much more in tune with what people want. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, that's pretty much what I was going for. Do you think any of these bigger conglomerates will start gobbling up microbrands at some point?
No,
to get a part of this
action? They just can't. They can't meet the margins. Like you can't make Christopher Ward with a traditional big box margin. Like the price has to go up, and then the reason for being expires. So, in order to exist as a micro brand, you need to just sacrifice so much of your margin and sacrifice so many of the levers that the big box industry relies on, such as marketing. What would a big box brand do with Christopher Ward if they can't increase the price? Like they're not going to spend money on it as they do all their other brands. So I just think they're mutually incompatible because of the business models. But at the same time, yeah, well, Time+Tide, like our Discovery Studio is the piece. I mean, what else do you need? We're going to there'll be boutiques on the high street. There'll be Time+Tide on a first floor somewhere with all the other brands that don't have margins built in for marketing and for retailers, and come and see us. All done. Job done. But I will say, sorry, I just wanted to say one thing because I have a foot in both camps. And there was an episode of A Matter of Time that I thought was our best episode where we talked about what can big brands do that small brands can't, and what can small brands do that big brands can't. And I still wear Panerai on a regular basis. I still wear Rolex on a regular basis. Well, I don't at the moment. I still wear Vacheron on a regular basis because I get enormous energy and identity from the marketing projection and from the brand story of an older brand. So having said that they don't understand micro brands, it doesn't mean they aren't very much appealing to me. And at least half of the brands I deeply desire are big box brands that have all these margins built in. I don't care. What I'm getting for it is David Beckham. I'm getting something that has an amazing brand story that's 100 years old, like Tudor. Tudor's an amazing brand. I will buy Tudor for the rest of my life. And it doesn't matter that doesn't have the value of a micro brand. It has a story, it has an identity, it has an energy, it has an aura. When I put a Tudor on, I can go to the gym a little bit easier because I've got that aura pushing me along. So I am someone who is evenly pitched between these two camps. I'm not a micro brand superstore. You will see the concept evolve and you'll understand my full vision in time. But all of those comments, the pejorative comments about the industry, are just, do they really understand microbrands? I don't think they do. Do they know how to work with them? I don't think they can. But are they both appealing to me? Hugely. And do I have more big box brands in my collection than micros? Probably. So my money's where my mouth is there, and I am evenly pitched, and I see the value in both.
When that almost is a perfect little segue into the question I was going to ask. You get to work with obviously the big brands and the indies. Who's more fun to work with when it comes to covering them, do you find?
I'm not going to answer like you expect. You'd expect me to say the micros because they're prepared to just throw out the rule book and play along. The big brands are like, artists need adversity. You need something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And when Vacheron said to me, "Hey, we've got this concept to launch the 222. What do you think?" Or, "Hey, we want you to chat to Christian Salmoni about the 222 and how it's different and the same to the OG." These are super fun moments, and like, I find I get a huge thrill out of working with multiple century brands in a fun way. And I'm really enjoying the slow but methodical process of the brands that are very traditional coming to me in particular and to Time+Tide saying, "Hey, we are ready to do a Time+Tide style thing. We're ready to let you loose on the manufacturer." And Russell did a great video with Bulgari that's just published on Time+Tide where he goes in to the manufacturer with Fabrizio and has this super spirited conversation, again, revealing a different side of the brand that I get huge satisfaction out of the fun that I get to have with the big box brands. But, the pizza activation and that silliness, man, I'm like a big kid. How is a 48-year-old? Like, how is this any kind of life? How is this any kind of job? I don't know. It's a 10 out of 10, the fun I have with the smaller brands, because I'll do anything. We'll do anything together. There's no rules. But sometimes, like I said, Jerome from Serica, Andrea from Fellamari, they're as restrictive and as creatively controlling as the big brands. And they're not going to do anything that steps out of their brand guidelines because they're so specific about what their brand does and says. So there's absolutely no way to answer that, because some of the fun stuff I've done with even Chris Granger, he did a podcast with me just about the Formula One movie where we got to deep dive on all these stories about Formula One. That was super fun. Like, he just completely let his guard down and did 4 hours of episodes on a podcast of telling anecdote after anecdote about what it's like being the CEO of IWC and how fun that is. So that's hugely fun. Like,
he's a great guy, that guy.
That's also 10 out of 10. Like, are you kidding me? But it's only 10 out of 10 now because I've done 11 or 12 years of fucking servitude. Please supply your questions for the CEO. It comes back and it's more red than black. You're just like, so I get to ask you please tell me about the inspiration behind the new Melissima collection. I'm like, I'm not doing this interview. Come on. So I've done 12 years of just the corporate grind, and it's been not fun, Bob. But if you watch Time+Tide at all, we've bent the industry to our will a little bit, and we get to have some fun, and possibly even more satisfying than doing a pizza thing with Rich, because of course we're disrupting and being silly. That's the game. But when you do that, when Chris Granger Air does a running tour of IWC, literally running around the manufacturer with you and having a sprint race with you in the bowels of the manufacturer, it's like, this is more fun because 2 years ago, I had to supply my questions and ask him 3 questions and he wouldn't be on camera. It's like, we're kind of getting the industry to loosen up and getting the industry to just loosen the tie a little bit. Let's just talk to people. Let's just be ourselves, be passionate, be normal. Don't sit there stiffly with these auto cue questions. Anyway, you can tell that I had enough of that.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So, Andrew, do you think social media has been a net positive or negative for genuine watch appreciation?
1,000,000% positive. I mean, God, the word has spread like wildfire about how addictive and how fun this hobby is and how much it connects people, and how many connections would have been made without social media. That's 1,000,000% yes.
If you could tell your younger GQ writing self one thing before the launch of Time+Tide, what would that be?
Oh my God, Brent. I would just say it'll be worth it in the end. That's it.
Good answer.
Yeah. So let's discuss some watches here. Which watch best symbolizes your journey from journalism to entrepreneur?
Oh God, you guys are killing me. These are properly researched and thought through questions. What watch symbolizes my journey from journalist to entrepreneur? I'm going to go with the Time+Tide Doxa Sub 600T Pacific. This is a real sleeper of ours. It's a titanium Doxa. It was on an electric blue strap, and it symbolized the transition. That was our first sort of big limited edition. James Stacey covered it and was just enraptured by it, and just said this is like the sleeper hit of Geneva Watch Days or whatever it was that year. And we did no promotion of it. We were so naive. We were still such journalists. We just wrote lots and lots of stories about it, didn't do videos, and just did. It was so poor. Our campaign around that watch, like nobody knew about it, but luckily the strength of that super bright blue, the super bright orange, the fact that it was titanium. There are very few titanium Doxas. I knew that was a collector hit. I hoped anyway that collectors would recognize that this was something to jump on, and it was awesome. Like that transition, that was a real confidence builder to go from hardcore journalists to distributors of Doxa, and then we just dipped our toe literally in the ocean with Doxa. And while we could have gone 600 deep, we had a very shallow campaign to support it, and it stuck, and we got some nice comments and that made me feel good, and that made me feel like we could do it again. So that watch is, and I love wearing that watch because it's just a beast, but it's so light that it's really wearable, and anyone that recognizes it, it's just an OG. Anyone that's like, oh, the Pacific, I'm like, OG, let's talk. That's a good watch. That's actually, I got away with that answer because it's actually it's literally the watch that went from journalism to retail in some ways. Because the Doxa experience, we didn't do as good a job with Doxa as we did with Hamilton, but it's a more niche brand, so we're being a bit hard on ourselves there. Hamilton just exploded because it was just desperately wanted in Australia, and we just kind of had that little pickaxe on the ground in Texas and went.
Yeah, the oil
Texas
everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Hamilton's for everyone.
What's one piece you regret letting go, or you still dream of owning?
Oh, look, I regret the Batman. I let the Batman go. I was wearing it when my second child was born.
Just heard this on your podcast yesterday.
And I've been thinking about it. I'm going to buy it back. I'm going to buy one back. I'll try and track down the guy in Australia. But I just did this dumb thing where I thought too much about the signal it was sending to the world. I had too many people just turning their nose up going, oh, of course you've got a Batman. And I suffered it for 5 years. It just, the people just kind of going, ugh, eye roll. Andrew's wearing the hot GMT. Because when I bought it in 2015, it was just a new GMT. It wasn't what it became in 16, 17. So I regret selling that because it fit really well. It's just Rolex at its absolute best. Just that watch is a photographer's dream. Like the white gold, no one knows the white gold lume plots. You see under the right conditions, it's just superb. I miss it, but I cannot sometimes separate myself from the toxicity that builds around certain watches. And I mean, Christian's got it with the 5711, Ellie's got it with 5711. I got it with the Batman, and I regret that, but equally I understand why I did it, and I sort of stand by it. But now that it's all passed a bit more, I could probably go back there. But then I don't know. I tend to sort of waver on that too, because there's a part of me that wouldn't spend that money on that watch right now. There's many other things that would take their place, but it is an unbelievable daily watch, and it is a watch that I just remember with it's a flawless piece of kit. And that sort of 904L steel, just everything about it, it's luxe. It's a superb watch.
really struck a chord with that question.
Good. It's a good question.
You know, yeah. Well, we only have one question left ourselves. Often our listeners will send in some, so we'll finish up with those. But our last question is, as a music lover, what song would best capture the rhythm of Time and Tide right now?
Oh boy, thinking a lot about this actually, because we're choosing music for a couple of the New York promos. Wow. I give you guys the award for the most thought-provoking questions and the best researched, because this is so in my zone. There's a song called Marquee Moon by a band called Television, and it is an epic song. It's like 10 minutes long. Production's amazing. It's super on a good stereo. This will just blow your mind. And it feels like it's never going to end, but there's so many like sections within the song that have different moods. And that's what I'm going for. Because I'm of course thinking of New York bands. I'm thinking of New York punk. I'm thinking of all the obvious ones, the Ramones, Velvet Underground, all the New York classic bands. But I'm good. And this is another one. Like, this is Richard Hell. Television is not a band I know intimately, but Marquee Moon is a song. Just got to track it down and just go on the journey. Stick with it. It's just phenomenal. But that's how it feels to be in Time and Tide. There's just all these peaks and troughs. There's bits where there's just silence and drums, and there's bits where the whole band are just in complete harmony. It's got a lot of tempos within it, and that would sum up to me the experience of Time and Tide right now, which is that it's sort of endless. It's this wave that just doesn't stop going. In fact, it's sort of strangely, it feels like we're about to, like, on Monday something will happen that will change the game again. And so you guys your timing's quite interesting. This is the last business day before everything changes for us.
This is dropping on Monday, so if you want to let it go, let it rip.
What time on Monday?
5 a.m.
5
a.m.
No.
Eastern New York time.
No, I can't do 5 a.m.
We tried.
If you can drop it later.
Yeah.
No, you'll see. No, something. So yeah, the wave never ends, and in a way that neither does this song. But it's just it's one of my favorite. I could put it on repeat and listen to it over and over. And I guess that's what I'm doing with Time and Tide. I'm putting it on repeat and just doing this over and over, but always a bit different. And that's what the song is.
Cool. I know what I'm going to do after this show. I'm going to go and look up that song.
And once we're off the air, I'll tell you what's happening.
Cool. We won't tell anyone, we promise. So we put out the call on Instagram for some questions from our listeners, and lo and behold, we got some. So this is from @CentralSeconds on Instagram. How do you decide which brands, independent watchmakers, to bring into Time and Tide studio?
Yeah, this is a bit of a formula for us now. First, we all have to vote on it. We all have to agree, which is not easy. There's a few in that committee. So number one, it has to be green lit. I do get a captain's card for some things. I'm just like, well, no one voted with me, but we're doing it anyway. Let's work as a team and do it my way. No, there's generally a consensus. If someone argues with me, no, I don't agree for these reasons, I can be deviated. But number one, there has to be a bit of a team sense that it's good. Then it goes into what's called a hot drops program, where it goes into these cabinets in the middle of the store as opposed to the cabinets on the walls. And then, because every brand will tell you the same thing, they say, Andrew, I want to be in your store. I've got a huge community. They're all going to come in and buy. You won't believe our sell through. It's going to be amazing. And it doesn't happen like that most of the time. Most of the time, there'll be a few people come in the first week, and then they stop promoting it because they'd prefer to sell direct to consumer than through us, where they lose a margin. So there's just a way for us to find out who's really hustling and who's supporting the concession as much as we are. So that tends to be where a lot of brands drop off in that hot drop stage. But then many brands, once they've if they come in, they bring their community, they push from their side, they're fully shoulder to the wheel. We see the sell through. We've had a brand come in with practically no brand awareness in the market, a brand called Bowcroft from the UK. And we'd sell one every 2 days as a minimum, because people come in and in the hand, it's just so compelling at the price. So the sell through has a huge impact, but it's also about how we work together as a team. Like, retail operations are very much where the honeymoon is over for many micro brands. Like, they do not build actual retail operations around their brand. And it just, oh, you mean we have to follow up on customer tickets? Oh, you mean we have to do after sales service? What? Like, this is, you know, there's a moment of truth there, and many brands fail at that, and then many brands fail at delivery. So, you know, the brands that we all like might get a spot in Hot Drops, and then the brands that actually are professional and sell through have a real shot at permanence. And there are quite a few success stories of brands that have gone all the way to the big time. And Denison's a great example. Yeah, Isotope sells a lot, and yeah, Jose's a good guy, and that's a success story. But certainly there are some brands that have started at the absolute bottom, and everything is just, they're deadly serious, they're professional, they understand that there's a lot of grunt work that goes into this micro brand thing, and it's not sexy, but it's necessary, or the whole, you can't be in retail if you don't have retail ops.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned Bowcroft. I happen to have one sitting.
Oh, look at that! I know, but see,
they're beautiful watches, man. Like,
they're just punching so above their weight for 500 pounds or 400 pounds. It's like, oh my God. I think it's 316L. Like, it's great of steel. Feels good in the hand. Dials are nice. Just again, like Erebus, like these brands that just deliver a great sort of all-round product that, I hate that word, by the way. I'm shocked I said that. But they just deliver a great all-round watch for the price. And they're great guys. They're deadly serious. Those guys are so professional and so receptive to advice, and they're working on their retail ops every day as much as their watches. And that's a brand that stands. They may well get to a cabinet. They may well end up being a permanent brand for us, because we've got the sell-through. They're serious guys. They understand that the unsexy work of a micro brand has to be put in. You cannot just release mill graphs and keep titillating people with wonderful product, and then you need to do the work. And that's not to single micro mil spec out, but that's a brand that has so much going for it, but there's still work to be done, and it's all the unsexy work. The sexy work is 10 out of 10. But brands like Bowcroft, less sexy, far less standout, but they're deadly serious, and I back them. I back them to go all the way. They'll be more of a household name. Yep, good guys.
So I have a question from Carl Murphy, WatchRunner80 on Instagram. He asks, with most microbrand watches available only online, do you think more places like Time+Tide Studio will emerge to give enthusiasts the chance to get hands-on experience with these brands? And is this how the brands can reach the next level?
It's already happening. There's the Lush Attic, I think it's called, in Singapore. There's, I think, Revolution are going to do a watch bar. I think there's the limited edition around the corner from us in Soho. We're in Soho in London as well as in New York, strangely enough. But it's already happening. There's a fragmentation of retail that now sees sort of cohorts clustering together. So that's in motion. But yeah, at this point, I would say
it's
that
on the way.
there's still, they're quite piecemeal. They aren't as focused as Time+Tide. Time+Tide is very specific, and we're not having a bet each way by having tons of high-end indies next to small ones, next to big box. You will see an evolution of our discovery studios, and it will continue to surprise. But we've been very focused on having a simple, clear, understandable MO, which is we want to bring those internet famous watch brands into wrists.
Another one here from DLevine61 on our Discord. Since you soon will have 3 boutiques on 3 continents, what would be your GMT of choice?
You can't say the Batman. You got to pick another one.
I really like that Fortis one. The Fortis one with the silver dial and the orange. GMT hand and like a beautiful sunray. It's a gorgeous watch. And then it's got
colors.
a radial brush on the case as well. I mean, that thing in the hand is just so exceptionally high quality. And I really love that sort of monochrome steely look with the pop of orange. So that would be my choice. I love it. I don't know what it's called, but we've got it in
B42 maybe? Some of them.
I'm not sure. There's only one that has that scheme. It's the current model. I saw it at Wind Up 2024. So that's where I discovered it. There's video of me looking at it going, ooh, wow, it's beautiful.
So this next question comes from Jay Dang. He goes by Dangorology on IG and our Discord community. And he actually sent in 3, but for the purposes of time, we've just selected one. Among the many micro brands entering the market, which brand caught your eye and intrigues you most?
Wow, what day is it? What hour is it? Well, I'm just back from Wind Up. And because again, I sort of go around and I'm looking at everything. What would I choose out of? Because I had my favorite of the fair, which will be, I'm going to say there's a sort of an line extension of the Rivanera by Eco Nutra that are super exciting to me. And I'll describe it. It's moving from a tank to a tank normal. So there's a change of shape to the Rivanera. And I just find this is just an example of, it's a game of inches. It's a game of microns. Like they've just sort of adjusted the reverso tank profile a little bit. They've added sort of a step. They've added a mirror strip of polishing. And they've done it in that microblasted. I love that microblasted titanium look. Like all our first 2 Night Surfers, our Doxa. I love blasted titanium. So I would say the Rivanera and its journey that it's going to go on, I think is really cool. That's caught my eye again. I know I made a big deal about that. Someone told me yesterday that Kevin O'Leary is now on the Rivanera, so it eventually gets out there even more. But that's a brand that I'm specifically interested in that collection.
Very cool. On to Our You Doing on Instagram. Spelled hour as an hour and minutes. You doing without the G.
Oh my God, the puns. Yep.
Yeah. In the process of becoming the most buff man in watches.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Did your wrist size change? And if Nick Drake was still alive, what watch would you be wearing?
Oh my Lord. No, my wrist size is 7 inches unchanged. Actually, no, it was fatter before. There was a period where I had to let out the micro adjust on the Batman, back to the Batman. I hit 100 kilograms in like 2016. So I'm 82 now. So if you can imagine me with 20 kilos, the Batman was strained even with its micro adjust. So it's actually gotten smaller. Number 1. Number 2, Nick Drake. Nick Drake would be wearing a Frank Muller Crazy Hours because he just had a whole different sense of time.
That works.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, that tracks. And the last one from Matt Jr. _1971 on Instagram. Do you have a date for the Manhattan boutique opening? He says he's traveling there in December and would love to drop in.
December 8, and I want everyone to cross their fingers for me. December 8. Let's go. Let's just put it on the wall. Crossed. December 8. Let's do it. Let's go. We need that Christmas rush. I want to be open. I want to be there. Help me bring it home. Let's all manifest December 8.
December 8th. There you go, Matt.
Done.
Plan your trip accordingly.
Appreciate you all. As Americans say, I appreciate you.
They won't say thank you, but they'll say appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Yeah. I found myself saying it. I was in New York for 2 weeks. By the end, I got home and my wife got me a cup of tea. And I was like, I appreciate you. And she's like, who are you anymore?
Did you say with a Brooklyn accent?
Road trip, guys. Yeah.
I said I'm American.
American.
Yeah.
Well, that about wraps things up for us today. I mean, a huge thank you, Andrew, for joining us, for sharing your thoughts on storytelling, on journalism, on watch culture in general, and how they kind of intersect in a very meaningful way. If you enjoyed this conversation, Be sure to check out Andrew's work at Time+Tide and subscribe where you're listening right now. It really helps keep us bringing you more conversations like this one. Until next time, T2C out.